Hey Shredders, and welcome to Cut Style Strut, where together we will DIY fabulous pieces for your ever-growing wardrobe. Then I'll show you how to style them so you can strut your stuff day or night. This week we'll create and style this circle skirt. I'm designer and host LolaWusu, and this is Cut Style Strut. Welcome back, Shredders. Let's get started. So for the circle skirt we'll be creating today, any fabric will do. The sky's the limit, really. I'm going to be using an unconventional fabric because that's what I like to do. You can use whatever you like. I'm going to be using an upholstery fabric, vinyl to be exact, the same stuff you use on your couches. Here's what you'll need. Sewing shears, the sharper the better. Chalk, in my case a pen, to mark your fabric. Hand sewing needle and thread to match your fabric, measuring tape, seam ripper, and straight pins. To finish my skirt, I will be using 2 large closures and 3 small closures like these, otherwise known as hook and eyes. You can find a variety of different closures at your local fabric store. You guys know Sheila. She's going to help me show you the 3 measurements we'll need to make this circle skirt. The first measurement will be your waist. Then measure your waist to the largest part of your hips. Finally, you will measure how long you want your circle skirt to be. We're going to begin by folding our fabric into fourths. So now we're going to mark our fabric for cutting. To keep your fabric from shifting, we'll pin down both sides of your fabric. So go ahead and take your waist measurement and divide that by 4. So this part is a little bit tricky. So using your measuring tape, take the 1/4 of your waist measurement and create a little curve. So you want to just take your measuring tape and mark your curve on the fabric, on the folded corner like I'm doing right here. Pin your measuring tape from the corner of your folded fabric to use as a guide for marking. So you'll use that to create a dotted line. So for the first dotted line, we will measure 1/4 inches towards the corner for our seam allowance and create another dotted line to cut along. Using your waistline markings as a starting point, you'll measure your skirt length and mark along the fabric like I'm doing here. So if you're using a different fabric, this is where you would put your hem on your skirt. You can add an additional 1/4 inch or however long you want that hem to be. I'm using vinyl, so I won't be needing a hem. Add 4.5 inches to your waist measurement and divide that by 2. The extra 4 inches will be for the closure on the waistband with seam allowance. Since your fabric is already folded, measure out the length of your waistband and mark. I'm making a 2-inch waistband with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I'm measuring about 5 inches down and marking. Keep marking along the edge of the fabric to make a guide to cut on. Time to start cutting. Cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it. This skirt's so hot you need to cut it. Cut along the waistline you marked for your seam allowance. Then cut along the bottom edge of the skirt. Using 1/2 of your folded fabric, cut along the waistband. With your skirt still folded in fourths, unpin the folded edge and cut down your fold like so. Fold Fold your waistband lengthwise and pin the ends together. Measure 4 inches from the edge and mark. Unfold your skirt so it's folded in half. Starting from the top of the side you just cut, mark your measurements you just took from your waist to your hip. The edge of the fabric, mark 1 inch. Mark all the way up to the waist. Make sure your hemline is lined up and place pins like this so your fabric won't shift while you're sewing. Starting from the bottom of your skirt, you want to stitch a 1/4 seam allowance up the back until you've reached the hip measurement you marked. Make sure to back stitch at the beginning and the end. Cut in 1 inch as you see here, and make sure not to cut your seam. Now we're going to press our seams open. Using a pressing cloth, press your seam allowance to one side. Then press it to the other side. Next, open the seam and press it down the center. Flip your skirt right side out, lay it flat with the seam open, and then press it out. Now, we'll stitch the waistband. Start by stitching the edges of the waistband closed. Stick to the edge of the 4-inch mark you made earlier and then backstitch. To get a nice clean 90-degree angle, clip the corners of your waistband and flip it right side out. Use a blunt edge to push the corners out and roll them with your fingers to get it flat on the edge. And using your pressing cloth again, press your waistband flat. After the 4-inch flat seam, make a small cut on the waistband like this. Now we're going to pin the waistband to the skirt. So you want to start with your skirt, right sides out, from the opening of the back and pin from the 4-inch flap until you reach the other side. Once your waistband is pinned, flip inside out and begin stitching from the opening in the back. Remove the pins as you go. When you're done, flip the skirt right side out, line up your seams in the back, and pin it closed. Flip the skirt back inside out and lay it flat. Now we're going to mark where our closures will be. Mark 1.5 inches from your seam and every 2 inches until you reach your end point. I'm using 3 hook and eye closures. With the opening pin closed, we are going to be measuring 1/4 of an inch in and 1/4 of an inch down and mark with chalk or a pin. I'm using 2 large closures for the waistband. Using your hand needle and thread, attach the hook from one side of the closure and the eye to the other side of the closure. Make sure they're lined up when they're closed. Then do the same for the large closures on the waistband. Now on to styling. We paired the circle skirt with this choker top from LolaWusu for $19. You'll be made in the shade with these cool sunglasses from Risky Bee Designs for only $12.99. Accessorize with this convertible backpack for $79 from Accents and Gifts and this wide-brimmed hat from BCBG Max Azria for $39.99. And finish off your look with these Gladiator heels from LolaWusu for $49.99. For more tips, hacks, and fashion DIYs, subscribe to us on YouTube and be sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Cut Style Strut. Until next time, ladies, work hard, pray hard, and slay hard.
Cut, style, and strut with Lola.